everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the New York Community Center for Spiritual Living. I am Reverend Loretta Brooks, and we warmly welcome each and every one of you here this morning. We are going to have a service this morning based on inspiration. We have our musical guest artists today, Ashira and Yoichi. Ashira and Yoichi. Ashira will be right back. And we are going to have our spiritual mind treatment, and then we will have a reading. So I'm looking forward to our wonderful speaker today, Shonda Fields, our licensed practitioner, will be speaking on inspiration. So the first thing we do in the morning on Sunday is to welcome each and every one of you, and then we have our spiritual mind treatment, which will be done by our own wonderful Sammy Mama. Please help me.
Good morning. Let's take a deep breath in and go to that place where the Spirit of God resides in each and every one of us. Recognizing that there is but one power, one present, one God, one source of all life, and each one of us is an individualization of the power and the presence of God. And as we go to that place where the Spirit of God guides, directs, supports, maintains, and sustains us in all our ways, we let go and let the power and the presence of God move through our actions and our reactions, move through our consciousness, making us aware that we are divine ideas in the mind of God, divinely guided, supported, maintained, and sustained in all that we do, say, and think. Being one with God, we let go and let that power guide our relationships, our prosperity, our health and well-being. For being one with God, we know that nothing is superior to the power and the presence of God. And that assurance gives us confidence to move forward with assurance that all things are working together for good in each one's life right here, right now. With praise and gratitude for this power and presence within us, this power that's willing and ready to say yes, willing to move forward with our help, with our cooperation, with our understanding of the power and the presence of God within us. The right use of this power to aid and success, this power to move us forward through any and all challenges. The faith of God is all we need, a faith of God, not faith in God, but the faith of God moves us forward with ease and confidence and peace of mind. And when we let go and let God, we find that everything is moving forward in the proper order, in the joy of knowing that there is a power and a presence that is always available, always guiding, always protecting, always sustaining and maintaining each and every one of us. And we move forward through this day and through the remainder of this year, knowing and accepting our oneness with God, and with praise and gratitude for the love of God, for the divine guidance of God. I release this treatment into the law of mind and action, where it's accepted and acted upon at once, and so it is.
I am inspired. You? Yes? I am inspired, yes. And speaking of inspiration, please help me welcome Barbara Clay.
Good morning. Good morning. So today's reading is from 29 Gifts by Cammie Walker. and it's entitled Giving Inspiration. I should have known, I should have remembered, and yet it is the lesson I get the joy of relearning over and over again. The lesson that the universe conspires to make it easy for me to give and rewards me many times over with gifts way beyond anything I can imagine. My lesson starts with losing my job. I just told a story about giving and inspiration with losing something, and yet it often takes loss to get us on a better track. This individual had a dream television news job anchoring news for CNN. They were there for 12 years, covering everything from war to the red carpet of the Oscars. They had the privilege of anchoring some of the most important breaking stories of their lifetime. And then, after a phenomenal newscast, he was asked by the big boss, "Why don't we grab a cup of coffee after you get off air?" It was via email. "I know your contract is up at the end of the year," the big boss started, "and I want to let you know that you won't be renewing your contract next year." Shock, dismay. "Really?" I say. I'm in shock, although after many years in the news business, I shouldn't be. I never did ask him why, but did eventually ask, "What?" As in, what am I going to do now? The question didn't come right away. First, I gave myself some time and space to have my sad to grieve my dream job going away. Then, surprisingly, I decided that I no longer wanted to do television news. It had been great, but I knew it was done. I asked myself if I could do anything I wanted, how could I serve the world? The answer came straight from their heart. Tell inspirational stories. Serve as a vehicle to let those who inspire others to make a difference in the world. This idea might make you feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside, but it was hardly what you might call the most practical. I had no experience running my own company, and yet here I was about to step out in that direction. And yet there was a lesson. Be optimistic, commit to giving, and the universe will support you. I could fill a book with all the amazing things of events and angels that have come my way. And here's one particular instance that illustrates the above. One of the first things you do when you launch a web-based business is to register your domain name. No big deal. Type in the URL and click buy. And it costs about maybe $10, $15, $20. So when they went to register their name, darrenkagan.com, it was already taken. Taken? How could that be? There aren't a zillion Darren Kagans running around. And they thought all they had to do was call the company and get this little mistake corrected, and they could have their domain name blank back. However, what he was told was What he was told was that people squat by a lawyer, that they squat on these looking for very, very large sums of money, and then they expect to get that money when the person really wants it. And I can't find where I marked off that paragraph, but that's the paragraph on it. And it made him, here it is, it made him a touch nervous. Was it a stalker? I just figured out if I was meant to have it and hold on to it, that no one would be taking advantage of me. And by that night, the rightful owner came into being. Not one dime changed hands, and no, he didn't turn out to be some weird stalker. Actually, the person got back in touch with him and said that, where was it? He heard from him once, and basically he said, I reserved it for you, and only for you, so you could have it, and you weren't going to be taken advantage of. And so each time you forget, a lesson is lurking right here around the corner. And to remind yourself that inspirational stories, giving and inspiring, and just knowing, as in the first lesson, the universe conspires to make it easy for you to give and rewards you many times over the gifts we have beyond anything that you can imagine. And so it is.
So we are inspired this morning, and the theme for the month continues to be inspiration. So we are one with Spirit, and that Spirit is coming through us in everything we think, say, and do. And so I would like to give you the announcements this morning. This coming Wednesday night, Kurt Hassinger will be over at the Unitarian Universalist Center at 4 West 76th Street, and he will be doing treatment for prosperity. So if you need a treatment for prosperity, he will be there for you. And let's see, what else is going on here? We will have some workshops coming up for you in the next couple of weeks. We will be announcing those. Danny and Barbara will be doing some workshops. I will be doing some workshops, so we will have those coming up for you, and we will give you that information. And that's about it for the announcements right now. And now it's time for all of us to wish each other a happy Sunday. So let's wish each other a happy Sunday. So now it is time for all of us to warmly welcome, and I say something in here that all of you, I can tell by the energy. So we're going to have a shift in energy this morning. Is that okay with all of you? Yeah. So that when you leave today, you will feel better than when you came in. Through the music and through the wonderful speaker that we have this morning in Shonda. We're going to have a wonderful time this morning. And so please, having said that, please help me warmly welcome Yoichi and Ashira.
Good morning. All right. Okay, so let's welcome in that change and shift beginning now.
I was born
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashira. That was incredible. And she has a cold, can you imagine? Getting better, though. She's getting better and better, right? Right. That was wonderful. And Yoichi, thank you. Thank you. Wonderful music. And now it is a privilege and a pleasure to introduce our next speaker to you. I have known Shonda for a very long time. She is a person who practices principles in her life. She is a wonderful speaker, so please help me welcome Shonda.
Good morning. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Fanny. Thank you, Reverend Loretta, and all the practitioners, because this morning, doing things a little bit different. Last time I was here, Reverend Loretta spoke about Wayne Dyer and how, he's just been a gift and he's inspired so many people. So for the talk, I was talking to my dad before I started, and I was like, Daddy, I got to do this talk. And he was like, baby, just let it come from you. And then I was preparing for the talk, and I was listening to Wayne Dyer, and Wayne Dyer said, I used to write out all my talks, but then I said, Spirit, let it come from me. So we're doing something a little bit different today. I'm trusting Spirit that we're going to have an amazing talk today. I did write some notes, though, because, I still get to grow as well. So the talk is about inspiration. And the first thing is about, I thought about living in inspiration, right? And then I said, well, what about living from inspiration? So we have the definition of inspiration. And inspiration is defined as the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something. The breathing in breath. And when I listened to the second part, and I read the second part, I should say, and it was saying that it is the breathing in the breath. So in that moment, I realized that every breath that I take, I am an inspiration. Because I am breathing in the breath of life. I'm breathing in the breath that God has given to me, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, it is in me. So each and every one of us, every breath, every step that we take, we are inspiration in action. So for me, it easily came as like, well, if I am inspiration in action, then I automatically get to start living from this place of inspiration. From this knowingness, from this truth that I am divine inspiration in action, and that is the gift that God has given to me. So, how do we do this? We're made in the image of likeness of God. God is, I am. That is our truth. That is our birthright. And this morning when I was speaking to Reverend Loretta before the service, again, another inspiration, a gift, because she reminded me of who I am. Because just like everyone else, I question. I question myself. I question who I am. I question when I go through challenges. I question. Because that is my humanness. Because I am not remembering the truth that I am inspiration in action. And Reverend Loretta helped me remember that this morning. So thank you. We get to start celebrating each and every day. When you wake up, no matter what is going on in your life, you get to celebrate that you have a breath and you've just breathed in the essence of God of who you are. That's what you get to celebrate. No matter what challenges that are going in your life, what's taking place in your job, what illnesses, what is taking, you have a breath and God is saying to you as you breathe in, you are my divine inspiration because I chose you to be here today. So go inspire the world just by the way that you walk, you live, and you talk. Another inspiration that happened to me this morning is I was coming in and preparing as I listened to Neville Goddard. And I was listening to Neville Goddard, and he was speaking about how we need to really look at our mind and our consciousness. Our mind, God's mind, is the one mind. We have the same imagination as the imagination of God. However, what we do every day, and it's not right or wrong, it just is that we forget that oneness. We forget that our imagination, God's imagination, is the one imagination. It is. And what he was saying is that we get to become conscious of what we are imagining throughout our day. We get to be inspired by the truth that our mind and God's mind is the one mind. We get to remember, again, as Reverend Loretta reminded me today, that it's already done. And we forget that. We feel that we have to do something. And as it was said in the treatment, it was said in the reading that inspiration, and Wayne Dyer puts it this way. He said, inspiration comes from moving back in spirit and connecting to ourselves. We live in this appearance of duality. But there's only one truth, and that is that we are in spirit. And our only job is to remember that. Our only job is to get up and breathe in and connect to that truth. So we have key points. We are spirit in action. That is our birthright. And inspiration comes from moving back into spirit and connecting with ourselves. So how do you live from inspiration? The question I ask is, how do you move back into spirit and to connect to ourselves? A lot of you all, we've been coming here a long time, and it is the prayer work. If you do not have a spiritual practice, I am not saying it's right or wrong. I am saying, and I know for a fact, if you practice your spiritual practice, if you work with practitioners, if you work with a prayer group, your life changes because it is your birthright. That is the truth. The second thing is that when you're working on your own, you must have been reading my mind, because this is like, Reverend Loretta's like, Shonda, meditation, 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 meditation. Meditation brings you back into your oneness, your true essence of who you are. And that is where you get the true inspiration, because that is when you get still and you listen to spirit. You get to listen. The gift that God has given us has been given the gift of free will. Because God doesn't say you have to do this. I have given you the gift of free will, and you can choose. You can choose to use the law as we know the law in any way that you would like. We can look at our leadership today, and I don't care what anyone says, he used the law. He used the law. He spoke the truth of no matter what was going on, he spoke the truth, and he saw himself in the end. If it works for him, it works for us, because in our teaching it says it doesn't matter. The law is the law. And that is what we get to really step up in our consciousness each and every day to use the law. And the gift is that you have the gift of free will. But on top of that, You have this amazing thing that we use every day called your body. Your body will direct you. Your body will tell you where you are each and every day. That is the gift that God has given us, saying, when you feel sad, where do you feel it in your body? You get to feel that experience of sadness. When you're angry, where do you feel it in your body? You get to experience that feeling of anger because that is the gift that God has given you. He's giving you this vehicle that we ignore. Doesn't mean you have to become a vegan. Doesn't mean you have to stop drinking, unless it's a bad problem for you. But it doesn't, you don't have, you know. But what it's saying is that you have this body that says that every emotion, every feeling that you have is God speaking to you. But we don't take the time sometimes to thank Spirit for that. I want to give you an example of just kind of a story about being inspired. There's a couple. The first one is that some of you all might remember financial crisis. I worked in Wall Street, got destroyed in the financial crisis. That was the appearance, right? Go to my tax accountant. Somehow I get a tax credit. I got what Mr. Trump got. I'm not complaining. And then so I was living in this place. It's like, wow. Every year I get this money. I get this money. So my partner was saying, she goes, I want to do something. Don't worry about it. Got the tax credit coming. She was like, okay. So I go and I sit down with my accountant, and he was like, the tax credit's gone. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, wait. I was like, the tax credit's gone? So I called my partner. I was like, did you spend that money? And she goes, I already spent it. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, there's no tax credit. And she was like, what? He needs to redo the taxes. Like, there's no tax credit. So there was a calm. There wasn't anger. It's just like, it is what it is. So as I was walking back to my office, I got still, and I didn't go directly to the office. I said, you know what? Let me go sit down in a coffee shop, have a latte, relax. And as I was reading a book, little voice said, check this account. Because what I do is I like to play with money. I really do. And I would take money out and I do all this stuff, and it's in these different accounts. And I was like, okay. So I go and I check the account, and I was like, oh my goodness. The exact amount of money that I told my partner to spend was in the account. So I called her up, and I was like, I found the money to take care of everything. She goes, really? I've been working on a budget to blah, blah. I was like, we're going to keep your budget because you always say you don't have any money. So we're going to keep that budget, but now we can pay this off. And it's because I didn't get scared. I didn't question God. I didn't say, Shonda, you made a mistake. You shouldn't have spent that money. I just got still. And God did the rest. Another story is that I was in Boston on business. And I was in between meetings, and it was my line sister's birthday. And I texted her and I said, hey, what's your office? What's your address to your office? I didn't hear back from her for an hour. She texted me back. She was just like, I'm really busy. I work at this courthouse. That was it. So after my meeting, I hop in an Uber, and I go to the courthouse. And I walk in, I was like, okay, I don't know how this works. And they were like, what? I was like, I need to go see someone upstairs. And they were like, I was like, do you make an appointment? How do I get upstairs? And they were like, okay, well, you have to go through security. We have a big courthouse. Do you know where she works? I was like, I have no idea. I was like, all I know is that she helps people. That's it. And they just started laughing. So they let me go through security, and I was like, so which floor do I start on? And they were like, start on the 3rd floor and work your way up. I was like, all right. So I'm walking around the 3rd floor, and I was like, all right, Do I go left? Do I go right? What do I do? So I had to go to the right, and I'm walking around, I'm seeing all these people, and then I walk into this room. And then my license was like, Shonda? And I was like, happy birthday. And she was like, how did you find me? I was like, just asked. But I was inspired to go see her for some reason. I don't know why. So she takes me back to her office, and she goes, you literally just got me on a break. I've been in and out of court. And I was like, okay. So we're sitting down, and then she just starts talking to me about some of the things that she was facing in her life. And then I just spoke to her, and we were there for about an hour or so. And then when she was getting ready to leave, she said, you know what, Shonda? She goes, I needed you today. I needed to hear these words. And for me, I said, thank you, God, because I listened, took time, and lived in the world of both and, took an Uber, saw her, went to another client meeting. And I just really realized that in that moment, that was how Spirit was using me to support somebody else, and I thought I was just going to wish her happy birthday. So when we get still, we really can see and understand how Spirit desires to use us. Because like I said, we are Spirit in action. I know that many of you all have called a friend and they've said, you know what, I was just thinking about you. That's Spirit in action. And sometimes, you know, sometimes we feel like in this life that it's difficult and it's hard and that we don't know how we're going to do this, how we're going to do that. And what I'm learning, because I ask those questions too, to stop asking the how. Stop asking the how. Because God has your back. God has your back. If we learn to get out of our own way and really understand that Spirit just keeps working with us. And sometimes Spirit has to give you a wake-up call, right? Spirit has given me a wake-up call this year. I've had 2 major wake-up calls in my life, and I'm going through one right now. So one wake-up call is that I wasn't listening to my body. I wasn't listening. And I ran the New York City half marathon. I crossed the finish line, and I crumble over, and I'm crying in pain. Then I said, okay, the pain will go away, and the pain subsided. But then one day I'm walking up a flight of stairs. I can't get up a flight of stairs. Ended up having hip surgery. So my mother comes to visit, and my mother is just no joke. She just says it as it is. And I said, so I'm lying in bed. I can't do anything. Got this little machine working. She's saying, you got to work the machine, and I'm blah, blah. And I'm like, and then my mother looked at me, and she goes, you know why you're here? And she says some choice words that I will not repeat. But she said, you know why your blank is here? And she said, because months and months ago, you had been saying, I need to go to the doctor. I need to do something. And she goes, and you weren't listening. And she goes, and now God has had to make you sit your down because you didn't want to listen and get still because you were doing too much. So this year, I've had some challenges. And again, being just who I am and the growth that I get to continue to grow, I reached out to Reverend Loretta, and I was like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And her response to me in a very loving email was just like, stop asking why and just be with it. And again, when I called my mother, because my mother's going to come up and, help my partner take care of me. And when I told my mother, she was just like, baby, when are you going to start listening to God? And I was like, Mommy, I listen to God. I pray every day. I do my shit. She's like, stop. She was like, God and your body is trying to talk to you. When are you truly going to be still and listen to God? She goes, you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to do this, you want to help this person, you want to do this. She goes, stop. Be still and truly listen to God. She goes, because baby, I know you think you have it. She goes, but you don't. And she goes, because I'm 84 years old, and she goes, I've been to the hospital twice to have your sister and to have you. She goes, you need to start listening. So I kind of fought with her on that a little bit, because I was like, Mommy, I do all that. She was like, She goes, this is what I'm telling you. She goes, this is what I know to be true. So I get to take that in and take some of that feedback from my mom and kind of look at myself. Now, inspiration, as I said, is also defined as a feeling. And many times in life, we take a lot of action because we feel like it's inspired action. But inspired action is not forced. Inspired action comes with an ease. It's like a dance. It's a beautiful waltz. And when you stop and listen, you get to hear inspired action. So I've been working with our guide that we had in Brazil, because my partner said, I think you get to work with her because you've got some stuff to work on. So I'm thinking I'm doing great, but everyone's telling me I have stuff to work on. So I take the feedback. So my partner and I got into a really, really, really big argument. And it was a big argument where she packed her stuff. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is serious. I come home from work, all her stuff is in a box. And I was impressed that she could, because she's a minimalist, that she could put all of her stuff in a box. I was like, that's impressive. And I'm like, okay, wait. So I WhatsApped Sabrina, and I was like, she is leaving because of our argument. And she said, do nothing. And I'm like, what? She said, do nothing. She goes, I know right now that you want to go and try to save the relationship and do this and do that and do that and do that. She's like, do nothing. She goes, because this has nothing to do with her. It has everything to do with you. So for 3 days, there was no conversation in the home. Good morning, if I got that. But her box was still packed. So then one evening, and I'm crying, I'm emotional wreck. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I'm calling my sister. My sister's like, go speak to her, go speak to her. Sabrina's like, don't do a thing. And I was like, well, what if she leaves? And she said, then she leaves. And I'm like, whoa. She goes, then she leaves. So she comes in one evening and she goes, I want to talk. So she shares her feelings, and I apologized, and I said, I'm sorry. I was like, I didn't know, I hurt your feelings, I apologize. And I said, so do you want to leave? And she said, no, I don't want to leave. I was like, you packed your stuff? She goes, Shonda, what I learned in this process is that when I was a little girl, and I would get picked on, she has a twin sister, that I would get picked on by my sister, picked on by my brother, I would run away. And I'd pack my little suitcase, and I would run to the playground, and about an hour, my mother would come and pick me up. And she goes, so what I've learned about myself is even as a grown woman, I'm still running. And it was the lesson for me was, even in my mind, I thought I was being inspired to speak to her, to try to save the relationship, because that is what you're supposed to do. But by taking a step back, getting still with spirit, dealing with my emotions, experiencing my feelings in my body, crying, stop talking about it, it created a space for her to come. And then after that, the apartment, the relationship has blossomed even bigger because we both are lighter. Because I was able to take advice, but sit down, and when she spoke to me, before I said a word, I asked for the inspired divine words to speak to her. So that was very powerful. Living in inspiration is knowing that you are of spirit, that you are from spirit, so you are inspiration in action. Living in inspiration is knowing everything is exactly as it's to be. Each and every day, no matter what's going on in your life, be thankful for where you are. Because here's the beautiful thing. When you keep wanting and thinking that something else is going to make you happy, we're not really getting it. We're not really understanding that God is saying, I already have you because you are divine inspiration and I love you so much. So stop thinking that I need this money, this, that, this relationship, that. Already know that I've given it to you and I'm just waiting for you to catch up. Living in inspiration is listening to spirit and then taking inspired action. By knowing these, if you know these points, every time that you breathe in, you can then live from inspiration. And so it is. Thank you.
What a powerful message this morning for each and every one of us. That was such a beautiful lesson, Shonda. Thank you. I know that touched so many of us in the audience. There were so many things that I gleaned from that lesson. Imagining, the first thing she said that really caught me was, what are you imagining throughout your day? And when you get attached to the media and you start getting all that attachment, that's what becomes part of your consciousness, so stay away from that. Begin to have great imaginings. Meditation, as we spoke about. Meditate in the morning. It's so powerful. I do it every day, and I know many of you do. It's a very powerful practice. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And one of the things I just want to share is that Shonda sent me an email about something, and she said, what is the lesson here? And I said, stop trying to figure out what the lesson is. Go through your experience, and then you will get the lesson. The lesson will come afterward. Go through your experience with openness, with joy, with peace of mind. I love all of the connections she spoke about. Her connection to spirit is so strong that she just moved through things knowing she was so connected to the power within her. And that's really the lesson for each and every one of us this morning. And so it is. Thank you. Absolutely beautiful. And now we're going to have our offering affirmation, and then we will have some more wonderful music from Ashira and Yoichi. So let's take our offering in our hand. Ashira and Yoichi again.
love of God was ahead. Now I can say that if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through the day, you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go, let it go. Just let it all go. And this is what I have to say. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. 'Cause I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. And let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. How many of you guys know the words? Because I hear a couple of voices, and I know some of you guys love you guys some Michael and Ricky Byers back with. So if you know the words, let me just hear it a little bit. And 1, 2, 1. I release the Spirit, and my heart is running wild. Heart is open wide. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. Hold up, Yoichi. You guys can't sit down and say that. Come on, stand up. Let's try that. Let's try one more time and clap and get into it. Let's take it up. 1, 2, 3. I let go and let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only here for God. Say it. Yes. Look at Barney, say it. Look at someone and tell them. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only here for God. Awesome.
So is there anyone here who doesn't feel better right now? Please raise your hand. That was absolutely fabulous. Thank you, Ashira. Thank you, Yoichi. Thank you again, Shonda.